And we're live. Good morning, everybody. Or, if you're not watching this live, this could be, a different day and different time of the day that you're joining. My name is Tiffany Hill Cook, and I run a spiritual practice called the Healing Hill. And today's wonderful guest is Amy Pearson. And I met Amy. We definitely were both in Michael's Sheridan's dream course, not at the same time, but that's definitely how we met. And the moment I met you, there was an instant connection. There was a lot of, I would say, pieces of your experience that I found in mine as well. I'm going to read a little bit about Amy, and then I'm going to have her introduce herself. So Amy is the founder of Being Amy, is a teacher, master coach, writer, dream analyst, and speaker who strives to make the world a better place by telling the truth in public, no apologies. Her coaching approach is irreverent, inclusive, and deeply compassionate. She calls upon an eclectic mix of modalities, including the work, metaphor, dream analysis, and self-compassion. She's currently finishing up her first book. I want to hear about this. A work of creative nonfiction called Forgiving Amy. She lives in Ashland, Oregon with her husband, 3 children, 1 cat, 2 dogs, 7 chickens, and 4 koi.
So we can add a rabbit to that too.
Oh, is that right? Oh, I love bunnies. Is it an indoor bunny?
It is now. It wasn't, but yeah, we brought it inside.
Well, maybe just through the winter, right? Wink, wink. Yeah. Would you mind sharing a little bit about yourself? I know I just shared quite a bit, but
right. We can build on that. No, I have been a coach now for 13 years. I started my path as a coach, I guess, after my mom died. I think really the death of my mom was sort of, I guess, the brick that hit me on the head that made me sort of take a look at my life and see that, things might have looked really good on the outside, but inside I was miserable and I couldn't figure out why. And I remember before my mom died, I had spent years and years and years trying to get pregnant. And in fact, my mom was, I was 6 months pregnant with twins after having had 2 rounds of in vitro fertilization. And my mom died after some treatments that were associated with some breast cancer that she was doing. And so it was kind of a sudden, unexpected thing. And I remember before that, I had just been on this path of really just striving to be the best at everything I could do so that people would say nice things about me and think I was important. And so I basically just kind of was in this pattern of scanning the environment to see, how could I impress people? And that was really just my life, is like, that was my motivation for why I went to college and why I got my master's. And, at that time I was working for a progressive think tank doing research on things like tax equity. And, I felt like I was swimming upstream because I really wasn't that great at numbers. But then my mom died. And I think it might have been Oprah Winfrey. I can't remember. There's this expression that life tries to get your attention. It starts out as a whisper and it gets louder and louder until it hits you like a brick on the head. And I remember I was just too busy trying to be important that I wasn't listening to, the universe. And so when my mom died, I was 6 months pregnant, and, she had just left. She was, at that point, she had grown, our relationship had grown, and she was sort of like my number one fan. And I just, that at that point, it's sort of like when you're in grief and you're in shock, everything feels like you're walking through fog, but certain things become crystal clear. And for me, it was sort of like, okay, I hate my life. I hate myself. What's going on? And so that was really when I started to give myself permission to explore self-help, because before then I thought only wackos and, weirdos were looking at self-help, let alone spirituality. But after my mom died, I was sort of like, I want to know where the heck she went. It's like, I would talk to her every day, and now all of a sudden she's nowhere to be found and I can't connect with her. So I started to read about near-death experiences, the work of Raymond Moody, and just kind of went on the self-help spirituality reading frenzy, which led me to the work of Martha Beck, who is she wrote several really powerful memoirs, and then sort of that led me into some of her self-help work. And then I found out that she trains life coaches, and at that point there weren't really life coaching wasn't really a thing. People didn't really know, what's a life coach. But I gave myself permission to enroll in her program, and that was really the beginning of sort of my spiritual path, I would say.
Yeah. Wow. You and I have met before. We've chatted about how we both identify as a type 3 on the Enneagram. And by the way,
Yes.
just putting this out there, if you know, I've actually emailed a few people just like through the internet. Like, I would love to speak with somebody that does Enneagram coaching, because I'm just
Yeah.
not quite to that level. But um, one of the things that I learned was that for specifically a type 3, there's one moment in life where there's a true misreading of a situation.
Mm.
That our core sin is deceit, and it's deceit of
Mm.
our own heart.
Yes.
We are
Yeah.
in the middle of the heart triad, the most feely, but we're the least connected to our feelings, and we're workaholics. And so I'm curious, um, particularly with the precipice of your mother's departure from this plane, what other aspects of your life weren't working for you?
I so relate to that, because I think what happened for me, just kind of to back up and then answer your question, is that, and a lot of this self-awareness has really been quite new just through the power of dream work. I've been doing a healing process called Cutting the Ties That Bind with my mom, and I've it's been a very long process. But what's fascinating about it is that I learned things about that relationship dynamic that I really had no idea about. And one of the things was that, I mean, so much we could get into, but one of the things I realized was that I wasn't, as the fourth girl born to a mother who at the time had 3 children by the time she was 21. It was like she wasn't super psyched, to be having another pregnancy. And I wasn't very welcome. I wasn't, she wasn't, she also she struggled with alcoholism. And, it was like, oh no, now I have this. And she had teenage daughters, and now she's got this other baby to take care of. And I just, one of the things I realized is that I really just wanted her attention. And I didn't get it. And she would do this thing. She was at that point in her life, she was toxic, and as I said, we grew to be best friends. But
Yeah,
back in the day, she could be pretty toxic. And
yeah,
she would compare me to other kids. And we had this neighbor who just this beautiful blonde little girl, and my mom would say she's such a beautiful child. And I just remember, even though maybe she said it once or twice, it had such a huge impact on me. And I remember, I think that was where I made the decision that I was just going to be the fucking best at everything I could be, so that
yeah,
she would say nice things about me and think nice things about me. And that became my pattern. And so, that really was what I did. I really just learned to abandon myself,
yeah,
because,
yeah,
starting with those days, it was like I loved art, I loved animals, I loved nature, I loved, spirituality even back then. And those weren't things that got me attention with my mom. And so, what got me attention was being pretty. What got me attention was getting good grades. What got me attention was being popular, being someone who was desirable to men. It was all these things. And so, that was what I did. And I really just learned to abandon myself for her favor and the favor of others, just really just chasing a moving target. And so, I think by the time, I was 35 when my mom died, and I just got really good. And I know that a lot of people relate to this, because I, coach a lot of people, and I have a lot of people that come to me because they just identify themselves in these patterns, whether they're a 3 or whatever.
yeah.
It's really just about self-abandonment, and I know that I was just got really good at making sure that things look good on the outside. I wanted people to see me walking by and go, "There goes Amy Pearson.
Mm.
How did she solve the hunger problem and look so great?" You know, it was
Yeah.
like I wanted people to just, so that I would feel whole.
Yep.
And so, I just, everything didn't work. It's like I created the facade of a really attractive life. And
Yeah.
so, whether that was friends, my
Yeah.
social life, the way that I related to my partner,
Yeah.
the things that I chose to do for my work, the way that I spent my free time, it all had to do with what were people going to think about me? Were they going to think I was smart? Were they going to invite me to their stuff? Were they going to say nice things about me? And, would my mom think I was cool? Would she? And, by the end, she did. She thought I was pretty cool. But even back, even at 35, when I lost her, I realized it's funny. I was just doing some meditation before our talk, and I just had the awareness that, she really didn't know me necessarily. She
Yeah.
knew the me that I created for her,
Yeah. At least
So
in this dimension. Like
in
her
this,
higher self
right.
knows you and your higher self. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, and I've had some friends, and of course, we've done so much work around this too, but, I've had some friends who are able to connect with her as well, and, obviously, it's not that's the thing, it's like, I don't feel angry at I mean, there's anger for sure, but, like, I understand that this was my soul coming in to learn something and very important, and that she was partnering with me on that, you know? And that we're buddies, that we're buddies on the other side. And I know that we were buddies when she left this plane. So but yeah, that was really, I mean, she was really the catalyst for a lot of those patterns that then led me to an awareness around myself, and I'm definitely a late bloomer, but
No,
but it's all
you're
okay.
probably not at all. I wanna say hi, I think it's Rada. I believe that's how you pronounce your name,
Hi,
Rada.
Rhoda.
And good morning. You know what? Like, we're eternal beings. Time is an illusion anyway. It's
Yeah.
like, so if you feel like taking a nap, take that nap. If you feel, whatever it is in the moment that you're being guided to, do it. Um, Something else that I've learned, and this isn't going to solely be about the Enneagram, but
Mm,
specifically around type threes, is there's a couple of um, I would say, uh, foundational pieces in creating this personality. And the first is, traditionally type threes are like the epitome of the masculine and the feminine. They're
mm,
cute kids. And so traditionally, cute kids are going to get doted on more. So we're going to do our dance. We're going
yeah.
to do our twirl. Um, and I think we get recognized more than
Yeah.
and there's 9 types, if anybody's curious. There are 9 types. Um, Type 9 sits at the top of the Enneagram, and really the premise behind it is if you were to go in with all 9 personality types to any situation, you have what's called God's eye. There's no
Mm,
one you can offend or marginalize or ask to do something that isn't in their nature. And the other piece is that there traditionally is one parent where the love was conditional.
mm,
There were
mhm.
terms on the relationship, and so you worked toward pragmatism and workability, which is a gift as well.
Yeah.
So, you know, um, so that's interesting. So, I have not how do I wanna ask this question? So I have my mother in my life. Um,
Mhm.
that's not true. My mother's alive. I do not
Okay.
have her. I do not have her. I've chose not to have her in my life. And
Mhm.
so I'm curious, when you hear somebody say something like that, specifically because you don't have the same choices that I do,
Mm.
what what is, what energetically is brought up inside of you, um, when you hear something like that? I'm curious.
About, your mother being alive, but not being in your life, like,
Yeah,
energetic.
like, you don't get to have the relationship with your mother, but yet other people can and they
Yeah.
don't.
Oh, okay. I don't know. I mean, I can certainly understand how people choose not to have certain people in their lives.
Yeah,
I
m'kay.
I can totally understand that.
Mhm.
In fact, that's definitely something that I can relate to with other relationships.
Okay.
And it's interesting for me her not being around because it's been I want to say now going on 17 years that she's been gone. And it's really, I mean, the biggest thing for me, and I think the tragedy and what really bugs me about her having gone when she did was that she wasn't able to be there for my kids, just to meet my kids. And I know for me, when I was pregnant and there were 3 months left after she had died when I was still pregnant with the twins. And it was devastating for me to see you go to the doctors and you see the moms there with their daughters and their daughters are pregnant and their moms are sitting there. And I was so jealous of those women who had their mothers there with them through that process. And I know at that point, my mom and I had developed a real close connection, and that was really sad. And I every Christmas I go all out with Christmas.
Yeah.
And I part of it is because my mom used to go all out for Christmas. That was one thing she did, well, no matter what was
Mm.
going on in her life. She'd do Christmas well, and she has this massive Santa collection, and I inherit all her Christmas stuff. And so, my kids just love. I mean, we have the Christmas countdown in the house now. It's like says exactly how many days until the next Christmas. We just never take it down because they
Yeah.
love.
Yeah.
I've conditioned them to love Christmas so much, but it's sad to me that she can't be around in that way and participate in our lives because I know that she would really get a kick out of my kids. They're great kids. Um, but yeah, it's interesting to do the healing work now,
Yeah.
not having her around, because one of the things that's interesting is that she got sober when I was about 6 years old. Actually, her and my dad got sober together and they stayed married.
Mhm.
And her approach to her sobriety was basically just don't look back, and I she became a mother who was very involved. She started as a mother who was gone, she just wasn't available. I was raised by my sisters, basically, who are teenagers. But then she became someone who was very involved. And what's interesting to me is that as I grew up, I didn't realize the extent to which my childhood was a house of horrors. It was like she didn't tell me, she didn't like I remember I have a scar on my thigh that I never knew how it got there, and she would never tell me. And I had to have my friend's channel on it, to help me understand what had happened. But she just didn't, she didn't give me any context for what the heck was going on. And for years I couldn't understand why I was so self-destructive, or why
Mhm.
there was addiction in my energy field, and why it was so hard for me to deal with certain emotions, or why I got so triggered and would lose it with my around my husband. It's like that repetition compulsion that a lot of people who struggle with complex PTSD have. It was like I had no idea. So, I can't go, "Hey mom, what's the deal?" It would have been nice to know so that I could have understand myself a little better. And so that to me is frustrating, but that's why dream work is so powerful. I've learned so much about my past and have developed so much more of a deeper understanding of myself, and so
Mhm.
much more compassion and appreciation for the extent of healing that I've done
Yeah.
because of dream work.
Yeah. Isn't that amazing? I will never forget, and I've told the story more than once, but, it's just a huge part of my experiences, when I was going through my awakening in 2020. I remember waking up, I couldn't breathe, it was like I was always just trying to catch my breath, and I w wrote down this now that I would call a download, but that I'm gonna heal myself
Mm.
and others through dreams. And then I
Mm,
found
wow.
Michael, and, the rest, I mean, I guess you could say the rest is history, but it started
Yeah.
to, specifically, I got excited about my gifts. That was, like, the biggest thing, when
Yeah.
certain aspects, but just to see these different players that show up in your dreams to, um, articulate a way in which it's impacting you today, but
Yeah.
it manifested 25 years ago. It's just
Yeah.
like the
Yeah.
story weaving of your dreams is
Yeah.
just so amazing.
It's
So
mind blowing.
it really is, sincerely. Yeah. Um, well, I would love to hear your, uh about being Amy. Tell me about, what prompted you to start, I don't know if you would call it an organization, but platform, and,
Mm.
um, what's your intention around it?
Well, it's an extension of uh, my business as a life coach. It's where people go to learn more about me and how they can work with me. But I also really find that one of the things that I really enjoy for some masochistic reason is is to talk about my own struggles and be really honest about it, and be really real about it, and kind of share what's been going on with me and what I've learned and how I maybe have come through certain life experiences, and so I like to write about that stuff. And so the blog is really where I do it. I've definitely found that it's evolved in an interesting way, because when I first started my business back in 2009, I I I found that, one thing that was really amazing about um, the life coaching and the work that I do through Martha Beck is that I was really good at it right away. One of the things about life coaching is that it requires you to be able to um, it's that counseling gift that we see in dreams, but that ability to hold a space for someone and kind of get a sense of where they might be holding on to density in the form of thoughts, mostly, and stories, and how to help them to see things in a way that brings them a sense of relief, that then leads them into really a different timeline, a more helpful
Yep.
timeline. And so I was I felt like I had found my thing. I could do this. And so I was really good at it. But one of the things, though, is that I was still holding on to a lot of my own trauma. And I discovered I was really good at something. So yay, I no longer had to swim upstream to try and be good at something. I was like, oh, I'm actually good at this. And then so I really, as a three,
Mhm.
someone who is like good at that, just going for it, taking action, performing, all of that. I just went for it, and I created my business. I was very good at being visible and doing the social media thing and writing and sharing my work with people. And I think part of that came a little bit from also just the trauma response of really wanting to feel seen and important. And the thing that I did really well that was of service to the community got a little bit tied up with my
Mhm.
continued need
Yeah.
from trauma to feel important and to feel seen. And so, um, it is what it is. But there was a point back in, I think, probably 2018, where I had created this beast. It was like this.
Mhm.
I was busy. I had a full calendar. I was, people were recognizing me, even like, I'd go to there's this event in Portland. I forget what it's called. Um, the I forget. It's some summit where a lot of people go, who want to do good things in the world. And I forget the name of this summit. But anyway, people would be like, I read your blog and stuff like that. I was like, oh my gosh, and then, I had kind of, just several ego deaths, I want to call them, where it was just like, I just realized that I was trying. I think the business itself really showed me that growing bigger and being seen, even though it looked really great, or it felt great on a superficial level, it really wasn't. I could tell just from the heart space that there was something really off. And just a few things just kind of just didn't work, and it led me into these ego deaths where I had to face reality that, it wasn't working for me, and I wasn't really happy with what I had created. And so 2020, I think, was where things really just, I remember I tried to do a launch based on something that I had done a year or two ago that worked really well. And I was using that old model and it just completely failed. And I
Mm.
was just like, oh, this doesn't work. And I'm just going through the motions. And I remember I just had to like, it was almost like the elimination diet when people have
Mhm.
what is it?
Allergies or something?
Allergies.
Yep.
Like I had to do that in my business. I had to take everything out and just, I kind of went into an extreme hermit mode just to kind of see what it was that really felt in alignment. And I'm sort of right now, I think, 2024, feeling like my dreams have been telling me too, is like, I need to start, and you've been telling me, we've talked about this.
Yeah.
I need to start like back. I need to start like writing again and being visible again. And I think what's been really interesting to notice now after I've done so much more healing is that it feels different. And there's this caution because like, I don't want to, I just don't want to be in that old energy of, oh, look at me, think I'm great, say nice things about me. And obviously those things are nice. So it becomes a little bit of a balance, it's like appreciation is great, but, I don't want to, again, I call myself a recovering approval addict with the occasional relapse. I want to be careful,
Yeah.
how do you balance that? So now, I've been, I did write a blog. I did publish a blog last week. I really am setting the intention, and I want to do actually what my dreams have been encouraging me to do, because I have a feeling, and confirm, all of you can confirm or deny, and Tiffany, you can confirm or deny, but I have this strong sense that if I listen and do the things, then it will help me to evolve my spiritual gifts as well. So I really do want to continue the writing, the blog, and sharing those things is really fun for me, and I really do enjoy it. So yeah, that's a big part of I think my way of being of service in the world, is just kind of sharing my shadow side and making fun of myself a little, just a little bit of humor.
Yeah.
And also it's deep work, because it's funny. I'll joke around and say, if I'm going through something, I'll be like, okay, I think it's passed. I'm ready to write a blog post. It's like, that's how I know
Yeah.
I'm ready if I'm ready to write a blog post, then, the energy is passing.
Yeah. I want to say hi to Nee. She is here as well. She said hi to you, Amy. There were so many beautiful nuggets that you shared in there. So I'm going to ask Spirit to bring me back around, but I'm going to start with this one. Um, it's no wonder that part of your purpose is sharing, I don't want to say the trials and tribulations, when a lot of your life wasn't authentic growing up.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
like you're
that makes
seeking
sense.
this authenticity component and sharing that about
Yeah.
yourself as well, because you didn't get it.
Yeah,
Uh,
that gives me chills.
that's I knew in 2020 part of my life's purpose was to help people fall back in love with themselves.
Mm,
And Dr. Samantha Cooper, she's like, well, that means that you didn't love yourself and that you
mm,
had to like, so a lot of times our purpose is what we were lacking or didn't have at the
yes.
beginning. Hmm.
Yeah, it's like, okay, I need to make up for lost time.
Yeah,
Tell the
I
truth everywhere I go.
yeah. The other thing too, I'm curious, part of your story, it reminds me of mine in the sense that there's a lifetime that I can remember that I lived. It was like ancient Egypt, and I was a really powerful pharaoh. Like I don't know my name. I just know that I get these images where I just commanded armies of people, but I abused power
Mm,
significantly in that lifetime.
yeah,
I manipulated a lot of people, and so there's components that I find in this lifetime where my subconscious energy is still connected to that, and
right.
so accessing power, I know how to do. I know how to be powerful, but
Yeah.
in a way that's dominating and isn't sharing of, and so I'm curious when you talked about trying to find that balance of, because your gifts are your gifts, right?
Mhm.
The ability to be inspirational, the ability to, mirror the level of consciousness in a room. Not everybody has that.
Mm.
And so our sins are also our gifts. And so I'm curious, is that kind of the same kind of feeling that you fight inside, is trying to be, I don't want to say altruistic, but authentic in what you're presenting? with your blogs or with the writing, as opposed to it attaching to your ego?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is like I struggle. I don't want to. I mean, we're human. We have our egos, and I don't want to imply that the ego is bad because I think I have a lot of gratitude for my ego. It's helped me, navigate this human experience, and it's helped me to grow and evolve and have a lot of, get learn things. But
Yeah,
I think for so many years, you know, most of my life has
yeah,
really just come from that ego. It's been the ego that has really been the in the driver's seat.
yeah,
And for me, it's been all about what other people think about me. Do people see me in a positive way? Do they think
mhm,
that I'm important? Do they, and so I know that one of my spiritual gifts is to be a spiritual leader, and
100%,
so it's
100.
like, it's like I'm trying to balance that, and I trust myself more and more now that I can handle it. It's like, but yeah, I definitely can. I'm sure I've had those lifetimes as well, where
Yeah,
it's like, I've been a very powerful person who has used that to my personal advantage.
yeah,
And I know, that triggers. That's one of the things too that I think some of it is trauma because I do have abuse in my background.
mhm,
And, I think I see people out in the world who are powerful that abuse that power. And
100%.
so, yeah, I think it's one of those things that it's just a balancing act, but I can't, what I'm realizing is that I can't use it as an excuse to hide anymore. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, just learn it. You're not going
Yeah,
to learn the balance if you're not doing anything. You got to go out there and experience that. And the other thing too is I think this fear of the negative responses or the negative feedback, or I've definitely had that for sure when I was back in the day when my business was really busy and I was out there. I mean, some people are just, not very nice, and they're projecting and they're using you as as a convenient way to project their negativity. And so I have to be I have to I have to take that action and practice in order to be able to face those situations and learn from them and grow through them. And
yeah,
so, it's what I'm being called to do.
yeah.
Is
I
to
love
be more.
that. Well, you had touched on, and I wanna hear more about, you said ego deaths, and here's the
Yeah.
beauty, you get to, and this is for anybody watching, you get to decide what your experience is. So if you say you had an ego death and somebody says, "No, you didn't," they don't get to decide that for you get to decide.
Yeah.
Um, I had, um, I had a specific experience in November of 2020 associated to my ego, and it was a 3 or 4-hour experience of really, like, it felt like life or death, quite literally. There was a
Yeah.
compulsion to commit suicide that I
Yeah.
felt in a moment,
Yeah.
um, and the ultimate component of my ego that had died was that I was crazy. So there was a
Mm.
side of my ego that had nourished this, idea that I was crazy, and, that piece of me died that night, and it was
Mhm.
a phone conversation that I had with a friend that brought me back into my body, and I was
Yeah.
able to see the story, the narrative that was being
Uh-huh.
told, and how it was false. It was
Mm.
not true,
Mm.
and so I'm curious for you,
Mhm.
I'd love to hear about one of them or however many you feel comfortable with, and what was that experience like for you? Because I can
Mhm.
imagine, I mean, it feels like a part of you, you know?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
I've heard you describe your ego death,
yeah,
and I feel like mine, the experiences that I consider ego deaths, may have, I mean, that for me, they were a little different, but I definitely can share, because I do feel like they were, just parts of my identity that I attached to as me that I had to realize I had to let go. And then there was this grieving process. And, for me, again, it's like, it takes me, I'm not like, I'm so stubborn. I think I just like, it really has to hit. Like, it's like,
Yes.
I hope that, and that's funny because I had a session with one of my mentors where we were talking about intuition and how my dreams were saying I don't listen to my intuition, or I don't follow my intuition. It's like I
Yes.
have the gift of being intuitive, but I don't always follow it. And I think that's the problem, is that some of these ego deaths, they just like, it took so long for me to just, I could feel that there was this misalignment, but then I wasn't making choices to reflect that. I just kept trying to make things work. And so I mean, the first one for me was in my marriage. And I'm definitely writing about this in the book. It's key, it's central to the book. But I've been married for, since 1990, no, 1993. So it's over 30 years now that I've been married. My
Yes.
husband is just, anyway,
Really?
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I got married when I was 20 years old, I think. Yeah. So anyway, we got married, and about, I think, it's cliche, but about 7 years in, um, we started to have some pretty severe problems. And the there I'm happy to go into more of that, but the what happened was that I I thought that he was in charge of making me happy. Like, I thought, it's
Yep.
sort of like that thing where it's like, you get married and you get handed off from the dad to the husband, and you see those Disney films where everything, you ride off into the sunset and it's happily ever after. And I thought, I had this impression that it was his job. Also, I was programmed just culturally that, I'm this catch, I've worked so hard to be a catch. That was one of the things that gave me value, was to be this attractive woman that, a guy would like to, my mom would say, when I went to college, she would tell people around, I would be standing there and she'd go, "I'm so glad that Amy went to college so she could meet a nice man and get married." And I was so pissed because I was like, that was the first thing I did, was meet a nice man and get married. I was like, why did I do exactly what she wanted me to do? But anyway, I mean, that was really what I thought. My job was to be this catch that some man would want to marry me, and so I did my job. I was a catch. I was a cutie pie, and he was, and it was like, I did my job. So it's like, he's in charge of making me happy. And at that point, and this is big in the book, is that I was getting a lot of attention in the. I ended up at Occidental College in Los Angeles, and this was really through having met Ron, and he wanted to move to Los Angeles. Ron is my husband, and I ended up at this really great school, and I got there as a transfer, as a sophomore. And, I was someone who, none of my family had gone to college. My mom was pregnant at 16. All my sisters had babies as teenagers. So I was the first one to go to college. And my parents didn't know about SATs or any of that. So, I ended up getting into this college because I had gotten good grades at the first school I went to. And so somehow the grades and the fact that I was an athlete and all this, I ended up I was able to transfer to this really great school where, I was around all these high performing people that I had never been exposed to. And I remember I didn't even get a 900 on my SATs. Like, I didn't know about practice tests, and I
Super.
just would, for a performer, a Enneagram 3, I was looking around going, I don't belong here. So I'm going to have to prove myself, and I'm going to have to work really hard to be the best I can be at the school where no one thinks I'm capable. And so that's what I did. And I ended up being the top of my class. And then the professors started to say, well, you need to apply for a Rhodes Scholarship. And I did it. And I was like, and it just, my ego was like, huh, it's like,
Oh,
this is
fluffy.
my heroin. Just stick a needle in my arm. I'm good. It's like, this is it. So I was like, I'm going to Harvard. I'm going to Oxford. I'm going to do all this stuff.
Yeah.
Everybody here thinks I'm important. Like, it was literally like fentanyl for
Yeah.
me,
Yep.
And so
Yeah.
then I got really confused because by that I was married, and I was like, I started to think that my husband was holding me back. And in reality, he was the reason that I fell in love with him was he was so safe. And he
Yeah.
was always this like, he always gave me permission. To this day, it makes me want to cry, to be myself. Like he just rides it. It's like, okay, she believes in fairies now. Okay, well, I guess I still love her. It doesn't matter. He just has always been that rock that has always loved me unconditionally. And I just got so confused. I was like, because I learned I couldn't apply for a Rhodes Scholarship if I was married. And I couldn't go to, I couldn't do these fellowships. I couldn't because I was married. And so I started to associate him with, holding me back. And I started to blame him. And ultimately it led to me doing some really dark stuff and trying to completely destroy the marriage, which he wouldn't allow. Where were we going with this? I can't even remember.
You're so good. We were talking about ego death, but
Oh,
yeah, that's okay though. I love like the intention for me creating this platform is to have conversations. So like wherever the topics want
I'm
to go.
getting to the ego death. I'm getting there.
Yeah, no, please.
So the ego death for me, the very first one was after, things had gotten so dark. I remember I wanted to travel because I saw that many of the students at Occidental were traveling and I couldn't apply for fellowships. So I was like, let's go to Japan. And Ron was like, okay, I'll go to Japan with you if that's what you want to do. So we went to Japan and we taught English for 3 years and we got back and his sister passed while we were in Japan and she was 21 years old. And we got back after having lived in Japan for 3 years. And he understandably was not only in grief, but he was just shell shocked with reverse culture shock and this grief. And for me, I was in my early 20s. And up until that point, he'd been there for me for whatever. Like he was like, he loved, he was just like, I just expected him to be that person that was going to make me feel safe, make me feel important, make me feel beautiful, go along with anything I wanted. And he was in grief. He was in culture shock. And I just didn't have the emotional resources to notice that. And I immediately went to my abandonment wound. He was abandoning me. And so then from there, I started to make some choices that almost destroyed the marriage. And you can read the book. You go and get the book.
Yeah.
But no, but I did whatever I could to destroy that marriage, and God bless that man. But and it's just an act of absolute generosity that is even letting me write this book and tell the story. But so the ego death was that I remember there was this one day where it just hit me, that it wasn't his job to make me happy. It was my job. It was an inside job. It was my it had nothing to do with him. He did not have any responsibility in that piece. It was my job. And for me, it was more, was like a lightning bolt I just remember, there's some things that I remember, just these insights that just there's before the insight and then there's after. And I think that one was like, after I realized that, that's when everything changed in our marriage. And I realized it was my job. And I decided that I was going to grow where I was planted. And, that was really the first. And, it came as this instant awareness after really this long ordeal of me, being very confused about what marriage was supposed to be and what it was supposed to look like and what our roles were. And then is there anything that you want to say before I go on to the second ego death?
No. Well, I want to say hi to Janice. She's sharing that ego death while learning remote viewing. I'm
Mm,
curious. Yeah, so I want to dissect on this one.
yeah.
We've touched on the type 3 of the Enneagram. I would be curious, is your husband like a type 6 or a type 9?
He's
Do you know what?
probably a 9. What was it? What's the 9?
Nines are called the peacemaker.
Yeah, that's him. That's
They really are difficult, like, they're, some people refer to them as vanilla people, but to me, their core sin is they do not feel deserving of an ego. So,
Yeah, that's
um
interesting.
yeah, so it's like decision making is really hard for
Yeah.
them. They don't wanna like, to plan a dinner for 9 people would be way too many decisions, way too many people I could ostracize or piss off or, like, I'll just go
Yeah,
along with the flow. You just
yeah,
tell me what to go.
yeah,
The reason I ask is the 369
yeah,
triad, and yeah, the Enneagram is very popular. So once you discerned, you had this awakening, I almost call it a balancing of the karma, like you're seeing
mhm,
reality for what it
mhm,
is, that your
yeah,
husband's not responsible for you. Was there any awareness associated to the fact that you are not responsible for anybody else? Because that's part of, like, the three's job, is, like, it's my job to make you happy. It's like we're the jester, again, whatever it is to make it happen. So was
yeah.
there any like, did you
That
internalize any of that information?
that took me a while, and I
Okay.
think I mean, yes and no. I think when I ended up, I the twins were born when I was 35, so we it took us quite a while to get we when we wanted to have a family, it didn't happen, and it took us quite a while, and we really just threw the kitchen sink at it and ended up doing a lot of fertility treatment. And so when my kids were born, that's when and I'm still kind of reconciling this, but I became it really kind of kicked off this instinct to not have them have experienced the childhood that I had. It's like, and so, there was a lot of compensation that happened where I was like, I'm going to really overperform in this role in some ways so that
Okay.
they don't experience ever feeling like they're not loved, or that that someone doesn't care about their interests, or and so and I'm still, this is something that I'm really like looking at right now in my life, is like, how am I overperforming because I think it's my job to do, and where's the balance there? So I would say that when I had that first ego death and I realized that he wasn't responsible for my happiness, that in some ways, yes, but I would say in most ways, no. I just really wasn't quite there with that one. And it
I
really took my kids and my, kind of the role that I took on as mother to the kids that has helped me to see that, that I still take on, or I have as a pattern taken on a lot as a trauma response.
Hundred to I remind myself many times a day, it's not my responsibility to be the golden girl.
Yeah.
It's not my responsibility to be the golden girl. Like, just
Yeah.
be the crowd.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, and another way that it shows up, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
no, you didn't at all. Yeah, please.
Another way too is that I think another thing that happened to me when I was really young was that I was experiencing my early days as a kid. It was like it was a chaotic household. My parents were alcoholics, drug addicts. I had these teenagers that weren't getting the care that they were teenagers really on the loose. And then I
Yeah.
had a younger brother with essentially special needs. I mean, we don't really know what was going on with him, but he was a handful. And so I was sort of in this middle of that, kind of just, and I remember that I wasn't really allowed to have feelings. Like, I was a very sensitive kid, but my mom would say, stop feeling sorry for yourself, or you're always pouting, or and I was always shamed for having negative emotion or showing negative, because of course it would remind her of just the environment that she was creating, and she didn't want to see that. And so I think for me, still one of the things that I realize I take on is to always be happy. And I don't want to have negative emotions around people. Like, I don't want them to have to experience me in an irritable mood, or not being super upbeat, not being funny, not being entertaining. And so I really have to. That's one that's been big, is just to allow myself permission to, I can be tired. I can be irritable. I can be, and it's not that I have to put that on other people, but
Yes.
that I can have permission to have all of the experiences, all of the emotions, and still be worthy of love and worthy of, being liked and included and whatever. So that's
Yes.
another piece where I'm really just learning about what I've been taking on that's really not mine.
Yes. It's so interesting that you bring up giving honor to your feelings because I too, like just as a subconscious reaction to existing, feel that same way. But this week I was meeting with a client and she asked me how I was. And I'm good. And I said, actually, I'm going to pause. I've been really tired this week.
Mm,
Like, I had all of these ideas around 2024,
yeah.
and I haven't implemented any of them. I'm eating more poorly. I've had some, behaviors associated to, what I would say being out of balance start to manifest, but it's
Mm,
okay. I'm
yeah.
here,
Yeah.
but I've just been tired, and then all of a sudden, she was having the same experience, and,
Mm,
there's definitely I don't know how to fully discern this yet, but, my guides just tell me there's more to come, is the more that you bottle up or suppress, or I guess it's just keep energy stagnant, the less connected to your soul you are, the less
mm,
you can hear your guides, the less intuitive you're going to be, and so any opportunity that you have, if anybody's requiring you to be inauthentic, that's probably not the relationship that you're seeking
yeah.
anyway. But sometimes too, for me, I don't know, there was moments where I don't know how I feel right now.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, I'm agitated. I could tell,
Yeah.
or whatever it is, but, like, actually finding the feeling is something that isn't, some people are really just good at that, and I'm still learning at, 38 years old how to do that piece.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
um,
And sometimes I don't know, and I'm just like, "Oh, I just like, okay, well, I'm just gonna be with it." It's like, I'm just gonna
yes,
and that's something where I feel like I think has been beautiful for me in my parenting is like with my kiddos, and I have my youngest who has she has really strong emotions and I'll just sit next to her and like she'll say, I'm gonna go cry it out. She'd say that when she was little, and I'd be like, okay, go cry it out. Just give it a good cry. And the beautiful thing about having someone sit there and just be a witness, not try to change it, not try to shame it. And that's how I try to relate to myself now. It's like, okay,
yes,
there's a lot of anxiety going on here, and I'm just gonna, be with it and just sit with it in with compassion and feel it and not try to change it or judge it or um,
yes.
interpret it.
Yeah. Whatever is happening right now is the most important thing
Mm.
ever that's gonna be happening is the moment of now. Let's see here. Well, I would love to, so because where are we at for time? All right, so we're at like 50 minutes ish. Um, I don't know if we'll have enough time. I was not a part of this course that you taught. I don't even know if you want to or even how long it takes, but
Yeah.
I know that you know how to have a practice called reverse channeling.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Is that a long thing to talk about? When I heard that, I was like, "What the fuck is that?"
Oh,
And
it's
so
fun.
I don't know if you are open to sharing about that, whatever you feel comfortable doing.
Yeah,
Cool.
there's a few like I use a lot of metaphor work.
Okay.
And so reverse channeling, I've kind of called it that. And it's basically a way to go into a dream and get more information from specific symbols. And so it's funny because I just did this with a very high profile channel.
Okay.
She's got a huge following, and she's like that's her thing. Is like she communicates with angels, and she's just like. And I did this with her, and it's always interesting because I'm like, it's interesting now that I'm around more spiritual people because usually I just teach this to lay people who, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
they I'm sure they have many spiritual gifts, but they're just not actively using them. And so it's really fun to use these tools on people who are now also just regular channels. They just channel all the time, and that's part of the thing. But yeah, it's basically a way to get more information from a symbol. So what I would say is if you have a dream where maybe you're curious about a certain symbol, you can't quite understand why it's there and you want to get some more information from it, then I can take you through it if you want.
Let me look up a dream really quick. I document my dreams every night. So
Okay.
and I dream like a mad woman. So, oh, okay, this is one that I just had the other night.
Okay.
And I was in a jewelry store and
Mm.
where is it? Okay, so I don't know how much of the dream you need, but I'm at a jewelry store and I'm picking out a few items. And I'd also given a few stones that I had to the store. So I'll just read it. When I'm picking out the jewelry, I am unsure how many or which kinds of the jewelry I want. I end up picking out a silver ring, which and was looking at a single diamond ring. But the jeweler told me that. Oh, and I told the jeweler I'd be back if I found what I was looking for at another store. Where's the piece? So basically, as part of this dream, I end up giving some stones to the jeweler
Okay.
at the end of our transaction, and they're like rocks, not like crystals, but I wanted the stones back.
Oh, okay.
Like some of them
Mm.
she got to keep, but some of them I wanted back, and they looked like granite almost, not like rubies or anything like that, because there were definitely those
Mm.
types of jewels.
Yeah.
Um, and Janice is on here too. She's excellent at this. But so that I was curious on why
Okay.
I was so fixated on these certain stones that I didn't want to actually give them away.
All right. So we're gonna do the granite. They were the granite stones?
Yeah, they were granite, almost like yeah, like I'm sure there might be a jasper or something that you could call them, but they looked
Uh-huh.
like regular rocks.
So should I refer to them as just stones?
Stones,
Just
that's what I called them. Yeah.
and do you wanna was there a specific one or did they feel like there was more? There was
Yeah,
a
there's
specific one?
one specific one, and it almost kinda looked like a pyramid.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
it was like it's not
Oh,
triangular, but whatever, four-sided, and
okay.
it was, like, creamy white. It had some, like, greens and, like, some mustardy yellows in it as well, but that's
You
was
can
it was
really see it. You
yeah.
can Okay, well, so here. So
Oh,
what we're gonna do, it's pretty straightforward. So what I'm
okay,
gonna have you do is I'm gonna have you step into the consciousness of this particular stone.
okay.
And so you're just gonna go back and you're gonna feel into that particular dream. And you're going to go and just step into that stone and become the stone. And I'm going to have you speak not as Tiffany, but actually as that particular stone.
I feel like I wanna cry already. There's just,
Wow.
like
Yeah.
I mean,
Yep. Yep.
okay.
Okay. Yeah, that's powerful. Okay, so there's a reason why you're looking at this one.
Yeah.
So when you're ready, take
Yeah,
your time. I want to talk to this pyramid shaped stone.
yeah. If there's
Okay.
uh,
Yeah.
it
Okay,
makes
so
me feel protected.
it makes you feel protected.
Yeah.
Okay, so pyramid shaped stone. Describe yourself for me, if you would, with 3 adjectives. I am the pyramid shaped stone. I am.
I'm describing the pyramid-shaped stone. Okay.
You are the pyramid. You're literally the pyramid shaped stone
Um,
talking
I
to
am
me.
I am I am strong.
Okay.
Um, I am protecting. I am protective.
Mhm.
And it's almost as if I reject, like almost kind of like whatever comes to me, it's like I can reject it. It's like it bounces off. It's like I'm a form of protection for Tiffany.
Okay. Okay. And why are you in this particular dream?
Because it's time for her to let me go.
Oh, okay. And how is it
Need
helpful?
me anymore.
Say that again.
She doesn't need me anymore.
Oh, wow. Okay. Okay, interesting. Um, you have a message for her.
Yes. Um, I let me think about how to say this. And I just feel more emotion coming.
Take your time.
We did so much together in this life, and I'll always be a part of you.
Mm.
When it's time for us to part ways, it's
Mm.
time for you to release me. It's time
Mm.
to live through your heart.
Mm.
You
Mm.
are safe. You are divinely protected and guided at all times, and um, I'll always be here, but in a form of love as opposed to fear.
Okay. Okay. Is there anything else before we turn it back to Tiffany?
That I was never hers to begin with.
Okay. Beautiful.
Yeah, that I'm a form of energy that was given to her that she used but does not no longer needs.
Okay. Thank you, pyramid-shaped stone.
Yeah, thank you. Whale.
Oh. Wow.
Yes.
Wow. What was that like for you? Obviously very emotional.
Yeah, it was really beautiful. I think I'm gonna cry more later today.
Good, good, good.
Yeah, yeah. Wow, thank you for facilitating that. I obviously didn't know that that was gonna happen.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I think we know when there are certain symbols that just we're drawn to, right?
Yeah,
And it's very normal with this process to have that energy release. A lot of it happens a lot with people, and that's one of the reasons why I love this particular approach is that it really allows you to connect
yeah,
with your own emotions around
yeah.
the symbology.
Wow.
Ways.
That was so beautiful. Um,
Yeah.
wow. Thank
It
you
works really well in conjunction with the Aisling-Michaels approach, and I will say that this is a technique that I learned from Martha Beck,
okay.
and she goes into it in her book Steering by Starlight, and this is a tool that we teach in the her life coach certification program that the life coaches learn. So that's where I learned it. It's very, I think. What's his name? Michael's mentor. I forget his name.
Denise
Someone
was
help us.
I was like
Who is it? Who is it? What's his name?
I can feel his energy.
Um,
I don't know why.
anyway, Radigan.
Yes,
George
yes,
Radigan. He
yes.
has something similar, but his questions are, I think this approach really allows you viscerally to go in a little more efficiently.
Yeah.
So
Do you ever find um, in you like, that was so powerful, and that was, like, fucking 5 minutes.
yeah.
Um, so, what does it say? It is aligned exactly with active imagination in the Union dream analysis. Okay, awesome. Thank you, Vanessa. Um, if you're ever guiding somebody through that experience, or I guess we could say any type, but, um, do you no, let's say that reverse channeling in particular, and somebody is struggling to really drop into their heart space, and truly, because there was a component of me not wanting to, and I'm like, "Fuck it, I'm here, let's go."
Yeah.
I asked for this, like, this is the law of attraction. How do you help people in those moments? Feel
Yeah.
like whatever it is they feel that is lacking that's generating that wall or what have you.
It's that ability to create safety. I think a lot of these tools, especially when you start to get into some of the metaphor work that I do, where we talk to body parts, we invoke waking dreams, we do all kinds of metaphor work, and I think it's the relationship that you have with that. A lot of times it's a client, and can you create it? And this is that counseling gift, right? Is can you create a space where that individual feels safe enough to be able to connect with their heart with you? And it's not, I mean, that's one of the things that I think you can't, you you can't necessarily teach that. It's maybe you can. I think it's one of those things though that I think is a really important piece to being able to be a coach or be any kind of individual, like a dream analyst, or is to be able to hold a safe container where that individual feels like they're safe enough that they could reveal themselves and experience their heart in front of you. And obviously, many times they're not doing it on a live YouTube channel. So, but it's such an act of generosity when you can do that. And so, yeah, and then, I also believe that everybody is where they are. It's like, I'm not here to judge whether someone should be in their heart or not. Like if they're not ready, then we just bag it. And that's the thing. It's like, I'll say to my clients, like, we're just playing here. If this doesn't work, we can try something else. And if someone's not able to get there, then there's no judgment around it. It's just, that's where they are, and they're not resonating with that particular tool. So we'll do something else, So and I think overall it's important for me to, as a coach, not to have any agenda around
100.
how someone's experiencing something or where they should be or what they should get out of it. Or so that's another important piece, I think, as a facilitator, is just to remember that, not make it about you. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And so just try to get my ego out of that too.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. I've met with some clients before, because some folks I work with regularly, and sometimes I just meet with somebody once and we never meet again. That was the destiny component.
Right.
But I guess I'm like, fuck, what did I even do anything there?
Right.
Like, then I'm like calmly and quietly reminded I wasn't doing anything. Like, it's not my job to do anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's definitely moments where I'm like, was that even impactful?
Right.
And that's not my job to be impactful. My job is to channel and really, like you said, be a witness, sit with this person to experience whatever they're experiencing. Let's say you've talked about your life coaching work. Can anybody work with you? How would somebody meet? Like, how would we access you? And I've put in the description below, y'all should be able to see there's information on how to contact Amy. But how can somebody work with you? And what do those services look like?
So anyone can work with me. I offer 3-month packages where people have essentially a certain number of sessions within that 3-month time. And I also I do a lot of mentoring of other coaches. So that's something I do as well, as I work with coaches and mentor them to help them be more confident with the coaching that they do. But yeah, I work with individuals who essentially, what I do is I get a better sense around kind of where it is that they're struggling and what it is that they want. And based on that, we partner to decide whether or not to move forward together. And then if they do decide that, and if I decide that it's a match, then, I use the tools that I have to help support them in, moving forward in the way that they want to. So yeah, I work with all humans.
Okay, cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, I mean, and this is not for me to inflate the ego whatsoever. This is my experience of you. You are a delightful person to, to fumble with, to laugh with, to cry, what have you. And so,
Likewise.
yes, cool.
Mhm.
Where do we want to go? Okay. I have, and I do not have them next to me. I have a jar of questions. Are you comfortable? Okay, cool.
Okay.
I actually should have been more prepared. I don't know exactly what they are. I believe I've got this ring light up here. Well, shoot, folks. Oh, they are here. Okay, cool. This is a production we got going on here. All right. We are human. So All right, let's get into this.
Alright.
And these range from questions about life, karma, relationships, all sorts of things. So let's see
Let's
what
do it.
spirit wants you to share about.
Alright.
Oh, can we control our dreams?
I try to.
Can I get a gorgeous man? Um,
Right, right. Can we control our dreams? It's interesting that that came up.
I know.
Um,
I've got
so
hundreds in here, and that's
yeah,
yeah.
I think it's fascinating. I think I have, I find dream work fascinating. And so, one of the things I think that one thing that I have had success with is the dream, what propagation, I think is what it's called in some circles, but basically where before you go to bed, you really just go to sleep thinking about a certain topic and then you ask for guidance around that topic. And so I've been successful at doing that. I've talked to some analysts and folks who do a lot of dream work that say that they're not as good at that, or that doesn't work for them, but I've had success with dream propagation. My daughter, who is this little star seed, she
Mhm.
lucid dreams every night. I mean, she's just such a lucid dreamer. And, I think as her mom, I'm really into that stuff. And so she has that benefit of me encouraging her. And so I think she'll always be a lucid dreamer. And I've done lucid dreaming, but it's not something that I'm really good at doing on command yet.
Mhm.
But I think the other thing too that is interesting with me, and I know Janice can do this too, is that
You
I've
were gonna share about this. It's so
I've
cool.
lear I've learned that I can have dreams for other people. So it's so out there. I couldn't believe it myself, but apparently, and it's not something that I've practiced it a little, although I haven't been doing it as much just because I've been in the middle of so many other healing modalities right now in myself.
Yeah.
But I haven't been able to do it on demand yet, though I have the sense that I will be able to. But I can dream for other people. I can have dreams that are not for me. They're specifically for individuals. And I because I'm someone who loves to go into research after I get fascinated with something, I started to research dream telepathy, and there's just so much there that it's really really interesting. But I think we don't even have. I think it's tip of the iceberg as far as what we know we're capable of doing in dreams.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've had dreams for many many people now, and what I've found is the common denominator is that I have some kind of connection to that individual, and that individual tends to be struggling, and they see me. They have this view of me as someone who they trust. So it's
Okay.
almost like psychically there's this bond.
Yeah.
And so, based on that, I don't know, it's happened. And I think, though, to do it on demand, what needs to happen is that I need to set an intention before I go to bed, and they need to set an
Allow
intention as
access.
well, and ask
Mhm.
their guides and their higher self or whatever, to come along and kind of help the process. But yeah, um, I
Wow.
think there's just a lot that can be done in dreams.
100%. Yeah, and I can't remember her name, but Michael has shared there's a gal who has, like, how do I wanna say this? So, like, we have non-player characters, right, in our dreams. That's what I hear, that some of them are
Mm,
just not
mm,
everybody's a guide, not every and that
right.
she has the ability to literally say, "Anybody that's not a guide in this auditorium needs to sit down."
Yeah, I've heard that story too. It's so cool.
Uh, but for me, to your point, I've lucid dreamed before. It was more accidental. I was just, like, in the dream, and I knew I was
Yeah,
dreaming.
yeah,
I definitely, if there's times, oh, Janice just shared, that is how it works for me. We both have to set the intention. Okay.
yeah.
But I definitely like if there's something I'm struggling with, let's say there was some sort of relationship that had some conflict during the day, or maybe it could even be that like my bowel movements, like I normally poop every day and I didn't poop today. Like, what can you give me an idea of what emotionally may be going on? That's, or I want to know more about my gifts. That anytime I ask before going to
Yeah,
bed, I am given the answer that night in a dream.
that's nice. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I was gonna say something else about that too. Oh, I so my here's the thing that I think is really interesting, and it's one of the reasons why I wanna start, um, getting into lucid dreaming is that in our dreams, when the dreams will tell you where there's an imbalance.
yep.
And then one of the things that we can do is we can go into a meditative state in our waking life, and we can go and do something positive in the dream that would help to rectify that imbalance. Well, I'm really curious about lucid dreaming, because if you're lucid in a dream and there's some imbalance and you're aware of that, if you're lucid in the dream, then why not just go and do, if you know enough about what the appropriate action, like if you're not familiar with dream work, one of the best things to do is to have sex with people, right? Like in your dreams.
Yeah.
And so it's like, if you're lucid and you know enough about what are the positive actions to take that are healing for you, then you could go and just like do the things that you know are right, just they're lucid in the dream. So I just think that I think that, I don't know, maybe I'm off, maybe there's a reason why that wouldn't work, but I just think being lucid in a dream and knowing enough about dream work to know what the positive actions are could
Yeah.
be extremely powerful.
You know what? And this is just one little vein that comes off, but it's like maybe that will be part of your life's purpose in this lifetime. You don't know,
Fun. It'd be
you
really
know,
fun. I
right?
love all things dream. It's just, yeah, it's
Yeah. And it's
fascinating.
something that keep learning more and more is like whatever brings you joy and happiness, that's the compass. Like just follow,
Yeah. I
like,
just had another thought too, because if you're able, and Janice, you can say what you think, but if you're able to have dreams for other people, and dreams, and you could be lucid, you could take I don't know, you could take the right action for on behalf of that person in
yeah,
the dream
yeah,
and help to heal them. I don't know.
correct.
Anyway,
It reminds me of not the same, but kind of the same because you're in different states of consciousness, but it's like it's like doing regression work, right? You get into a different, like a theta type state versus a dream state, and you're able to heal and, work with the subconscious and your higher self. So
yeah.
I don't see why that couldn't be done. So I know that's really freaking cool. Mm, cool. All right, let's go to another question here.
Okay. I love that they wanted me to talk about dreams.
I know, right? There's always they're cheeky that way.
Mhm.
Oh, I love this question. And I don't even know if you believe in God. So, how can I
Hmm.
connect with God?
Mm. Yes. Excuse me. I have always believed in God. Um, and it's funny, as a little girl, I always knew that because my parents weren't, we didn't have like we would go to church, but it would be like, we'd switch around to different ones. My dad wanted to go to the Baptist, and my mom would go to the Methodist, and we'd just do different ones. And my husband's family is Catholic, but I never felt that, in a lot of ways, the God that people would put on me, what they thought I should, how they thought I should see God, that never resonated. I remember even as a little kid, I was like, this isn't God. Like God doesn't behave in this way. Like God doesn't think this. Like that's not right. Like I always knew there was something off about some of the traditional ways that the idea of God has been imposed on us. And I always loved that one verse, and I'm not someone who really knows the Bible, but the God is love. What is that verse? Someone can help us out. God is
I'm not
patient.
religious either. Yeah, so I
Um, it was
there. Okay.
beautiful though. It's a beautiful verse. And anyway, so how do we connect? I mean, that's the interesting thing, is that, and this is why I love my job as a life coach. And what I think is special about life coaching is that our job is not to hand awareness or understanding over to someone on a silver platter. Like I know this and I'm going to give it to you. Here's this advice. Here's a suggestion. I'm so wise. Take my advice, see things my way. Our job as coaches is really to invoke awareness. It's to ask questions and use certain tools to bring about awareness that comes from the individual. Anytime I'm training a coach and I'm, part of my job is to listen to coaches
Mhm.
coaching and give them feedback. And anytime a coach is offering any kind of feedback, trying to get them to see something, giving advice, then that recording doesn't pass, and they have to figure out, because a good coaching is
Mhm.
about helping the client source their wisdom from inside of themselves. It has nothing to do with what the coach knows.
Yeah.
And so I really believe that the way that we find God is inwardly. And my path has been all about helping me to, like, as we said, and I think maybe we're coming full circle, is that my pattern has been to source my feeling of wholeness or my feeling of importance, my feeling of love from outside of myself, to get people to see me in a certain way and do things so that people would treat me a certain way. Everything was external. And what I'm realizing is that it's the exact opposite. It's that our God is inside of us, and
Yeah.
we tap into that
Yeah.
through this connection that we can foster through ourselves. Um, so I think that's more and more in so many ways,
Yeah.
um, that's where God is. And how can you find that? Through your dreams, through whatever healing you do, through your willingness to look at your dark sides, your willingness to just be honest about and be truthful and sit next to yourself when you're having difficult emotions, and, you know, be compassionate and open and honest about where you are in your human journey, and just, just be a human.
Yeah.
That's the beginning of it. That's where God is just through that relationship that you can foster through yourself.
I love that. I may have found the quote, I don't know. Um, I get I don't even know how to even say it. John 4 verse
Oh, okay. What is it? What yeah,
so maybe this is it, maybe not. Dude, this is how, like, this is like almost like a foreign language, but beloved, let us love one another, for love is from God. And whoever loves has been born of God and knows God. And anyone who does not love does not know God, because God is love. I don't know the quote, but
Beautiful.
there are some really great Bible verses, I will say, like
Here
ones
we
that
are. We're reciting Bible verses. Did you think that was what we'd be doing today?
absolutely not. No, but I think the Bible is a good resource for
Yeah.
people. It's a story. That's what the Bible is. It's a story. Like anything in life, your compass should be your heart. That's how you know if you're sinning, versus looking externally. But okay.
Yeah.
I love that answer though, going within,
Mhm.
100%. That's where for
Mhm.
me, like, I think about too is like God is in a smile. God is in
Mhm.
the trees, is in the wind. Like we had to be everything before we could incarnate as a human. And so like we everything is energy and we share that energy with one another.
Mhm. Yeah.
I think we have time for one more question. I want this one. It's a longer one. Okay. Oh, I like this question. How can we use the concept of karma to live a more fulfilling life?
Oh boy. These are lofty. The
Right?
concept of karma.
Yeah, how can we use karma to live a more
Ah,
fulfilling life?
yes. So what I have really, and this is funny because I just wrote something along these lines.
Okay.
I wrote a blog post kind of that relates to this, but um, I have found a lot of comfort in really seeing that our experience here is an opportunity for us to learn. And
Mhm.
that's what I kind of see this karmic path about is, we there obviously I have found, I don't know if it's obvious, but I have found there that being a human is difficult. Like I don't
100%.
always, it's like it is not for the faint of heart. I mean, there's a lot of great, I really do enjoy and love my life, but
Yeah.
man, it is difficult. It is
Yes, it's heavy
really,
sometimes. It's heavy.
It's
Yes.
heavy. And I
Yes.
think the more that I grow and heal, it's like, and open my heart, it's like, damn, it's like it really is. But I have found though that there's always something beautiful that comes from any of the difficulty that we experience. So as an example, like having lost my mom, just that was, being pregnant with my babies and not, really just looking forward to her sharing that experience with her and her leaving so quickly. It was really one of the most difficult things that I've experienced. But obviously I wasn't aware of this right away, but there were so many gifts that came from that experience. One was it set me on my spiritual path. It broke me from the pattern I had of overperforming. It taught me, in her absence, it taught me how to mother myself, because I didn't have any idea what that even meant. But when she was gone, I had to learn how to mother myself. And I think that any time we're experiencing difficulties on this journey, this human journey, it's this opportunity for us to devour that, get really curious. Like anytime I'm triggered now, it's like the other day I was dealing with a lot of anxiety around, it was a post-Christmas, and I was just in a bunch of anxiety, and it was really, really strong. And I was compelled to buy a really expensive handbag. I was obsessed.
That
I was
made
like,
me feel better.
yeah, I was like, it was like the old addiction. I was like, this $700 handbag is going to be the
Yeah.
answer to everything. And I was like, I was so on to myself. I was like, there's something off here, Amy. Like you're obsessing over it. Like I had it in the shopping cart. I was like, and I was like, I think because I've gotten really good at being curious.
Yeah.
It's not that I still wouldn't love that handbag, but
Yeah.
I was like, I was able to really get curious and do a lot of introspection around what was going on there. That what was beautiful about that, from someone who has come from, a long line of addiction frequency all over the
Yeah.
place, and me having
Thank
struggled
you.
with addiction.
Yeah.
It's like what was beautiful for me is to just experience that obsessive need to buy that thing just dissolve after I did enough of that devouring and being curious and really just open to
Yes.
whatever it was that anxiety wanted to show me. And it was powerful. Like it was a powerful awareness that I was able to achieve after just being open and turning towards it. And that's what I think this path is, this karmic path is really just this opportunity for us to, again, like become closer to source, get to God. Is like, how do we get to God? It's through this difficulty, it's through this struggle, and so that's kind of how I make sense of the karmic path.
I love that. I want to read this quote that I found this week because it connects everything.
Mm.
Uh, Hold on here. Where did oh, here it is. And it's from Michael A. Singer, The Untethered Soul. Nee brought this up the other day when we met.
Mm.
And this quote just it reminded me of my experience that I had. And it said, "You naturally begin to center more and more on the spiritual part of your being. You do this not by reaching for the spirit, but by letting the rest go."
Mm.
And like when my awakening, I got rid of the house, the car, the job, all of these things, and all of a sudden these miraculous experiences started happening. Um, we're up on time. 90 minutes goes so quickly. Amy, thank you so, so much for just sharing your light, for, creating some healing for me. Because there's definitely that's shown up before in my dream, but never in that way. And
Mm.
so now I've got a breadcrumb to go,
Yeah.
trans into something different, which I think is really beautiful.
Mm.
Is there anything that you would like to share with anybody before we head off? Like a final message? You don't have
Well,
to.
I'm grateful that you had me here. It feels kind of like, oh, I did something that was scary for me, which was to go on and be on social media again. And it was really fun. It was really fun to connect with you. And I had a lot of fun and I hope that my intention was that this conversation would help, all of us expand in some way. So thank you for the opportunity to connect with you. It was lovely. And to all of you who are listening, thank you.
Well, your intention, you manifested your intention. So, because there was definitely healing today. So, a gentle reminder for folks, I will be live this Thursday. Allison is joining this week, and the date is 1/11. So there's a lot of ones there. So inviting in some yummy energy. And then this next Sunday is going to be Nick's Moon Oracle. Kedra, and she specifically works with tarot cards, but she also is licensed to do regression work as well. So hypnotherapy. So that's this next Sunday. So thank you all for joining us. And yeah, happy New Year, folks. All right, we'll see you later.